Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this, our regularly scheduled city council meeting. It's Tuesday, February 4th. It's roughly 7:30 p.m. and I'm going to call this meeting to order. We're going to begin this meeting by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we're going to remain standing and have words of inspiration by our own council member Shepherd. Sorry, Shepherd, I'm giving you credit, but it's going to be Councilmember Anderson. Unless you both want to do it, we could use a lot of encouragement here. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, we thank you for this time that we gathered together. We thank you for your many blessings. We ask that you give us a spirit of direction and unity for this day. In your holy name, we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Shepherd, would you like to add any wonderful words of inspiration for us this evening?
He did a remarkable job.
Teamwork. Thank you. Let's have a little roll call, please. Vince?
Councilmember Anderson,
Present.
Councilmember Bentowski, Mayor Milan,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Present.
Councilmember Shepherd. Here.
We are present and accounted for, and would someone like to make a motion to approve our agenda?
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Thank you. We have approved our agenda and we will move to item number 6, which is public comment. If you would like to speak to any item that is on the agenda this evening, we welcome you to come to the podium. We'll allow you 3 minutes. We'd ask that you give us your name and your address. That's it.
My name is Ron McCauley. I live at 1008 West Selfridge, Clausen Boulevard. And there's a sign out front that says, "Little city with a big heart." I think we ought to change that to "a little city with no heart." I'm talking about item number M on this agenda. I think we ought to reconsider that motion. I don't think it should be placed on the ballot, special ballot in May. We got a city that needs to keep our seniors around. If we just close that down, set it off for whatever reason, where are they going to go? Some other city? They might end up on the streets as a homeless person. But they got a place over there right now. And if it's a matter of fixing it, I think the city can afford to fix whatever needs to be done to make those places better. That's all I have for right now. Are you going to have more conversation after we talk about M?
We will have conversation when we get to item M.
We,
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yes.
okay.
Thank you, Mr. McCauley. Is there anyone else who would like to speak this evening for items that are on the agenda?
Hi, my name is John Dion and I live at the Renshaw Apartments, 121 Renshaw. And I've lived there a couple of years and this place for seniors is just so important. I mean, I'm 68 years old and I've lived in some other apartments and it's just so difficult to find a place that's clean, peaceful, and affordable. And those are 3 things I was basically looking for. And I found it here. And I've been living there for a couple of years only. And now all of a sudden this comes up and I've been so happy there. It's perfect. And you know, I understand like free enterprise, you know, buying and selling and all that. But you've got to consider seniors and the needy people, you know, the people that can't afford regular housing. Affordable housing is so important in this day and age. And like he was saying, I worry about being homeless, as a senior citizen, that'd be the worst thing in the world, you just can't imagine it. And, none of us can afford a regular apartment, going for 1,500 to 2,000 a month. That's impossible when you're on Social Security. So, there's no other option. So I would just ask you to, I understand free enterprise and buying and selling, but if you could just consider, these people, us, the elderly and the seniors and the homeless, I guess. We have no other place to go. This is it. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Michelle Campos. I live at 121 Renshaw. It was my hope, I've been there 4 years. It was my hope when I moved in there. I was so thrilled. I'm close to my kids. I'm close to the grandkids. It's safe. It was my hope that I'd be carried out of their feet first. I was in it for the long run. So I would hope that you would take this into account and understand that we are people. We wanted to put some faces to the building. We're real people and we matter. And I participate in Clawson. I love Clawson. So if you would reconsider or maybe try to work out something else, we're willing to do what it takes to be able to stay there and reside there. And certainly living somewhere for $1,500 a month is kind of out of the question for us. So, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
I'm coming, guys. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Joanne McCauley. I live at 121 Renshaw, apartment 102. I've been a Clawson resident for over 60 years. Always lived in Clawson. Apartment, 2 purchases, and now I'm in an apartment again. We went through this back in 2018, I believe, and we recovered from it. I've read all the stuff, what the ADA wants us to do or what their words are. And I'd like to see us recover again from this. I hope you guys show your big heart. Well, I have no place to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hi.
My name is Doug, and I live in apartment 106 at 121 Renshaw. And tonight, it's kind of serious for us. I'd like to urge empathy. Please be empathetic. We're not a vacant lot. We're not an abandoned machine shop. We're not a vacant storefront. It's our home. 15 people live there. It's our home. We don't really have many other choices. You've heard about the cost. We don't have a lot of choices. So please, tonight, or in the future, when you discuss, be empathetic. Think of it as your home. How would you feel if someone proposed selling your home? It's our last place. So again, please, I appreciate your time. Please be empathetic if you can. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm not a public speaker, so you'll have to bear with me. I'm Brandon Bartel. I live on 716 Nama. I like what he said about being empathetic. I think this shouldn't even be a discussion. It should be, seniors are special and we should cherish them. And the fact that we're talking about taking away space for them to live, we should celebrate that opportunity to be with them. So, sorry, I'm getting emotional for some reason, but they should be highlighted. Clawson is special. I mean, it's very special. And seniors make that special. All these little experiences that we have here, you don't want to lose those. And you start thinking, we need to develop more. We are what we are. You need to cherish that. We are small, but we are mighty and we have a lot of heart. Never forget that. And lead with empathy, like what he just said. That's your job up there, to always think empathy, empathy, okay? Why this is even a discussion, it's crazy. My wife had to tell me today that this is happening. I had no idea. There's so many people like me here that would be here if my wife would have known more and we would have brought more people, but it's crazy that this is even a topic. We have had family. My wife is from Clawson. I moved to Clawson in 2012 and I love it. And she's had family her whole life in that place. We have people that are there now that we know. And we have family that already have deposits down and are excited about moving there. Okay, so just please lead with empathy and think about who we are as a small town, and we need to hold on to those roots. Okay, thank you.
Brandon, you're a great speaker.
Hi, my name is Trish Kane. I live at 167 Knollwood, Clawson. This is my first time to a council meeting. My brother-in-law used to live at the Renshaw Apartments. He's in his 90s now. We all live together, my sister, my brother-in-law, and me, because we can't afford to live anywhere else. But he used to watch the tape meetings, and I thought, gosh, that seems so boring. But I know it's a horrible thing to say, right? Because you're doing wonderful things. So anyways, I'm just saying it took this situation to get me here. I agree with that gentleman who first spoke. We live by that motto, big city with little city with a big heart. And you would just have to abolish that to even consider putting this on the ballot for the Renshaw Apartments. When my brother-in-law, Tom Glenn, used to live there 9 years ago, they were, bringing up stuff that they wanted to do, raise the rent or whatever. And he really spoke up against it because he actually helped people there, his neighbors, buy groceries sometimes. They were just barely making it. And there's a lot of crazy stuff happening in the world right now. And we don't know what the future holds, but we do know grocery prices are through the roof. I think there's a woman I heard say the other day, they had a neighbor there at the Clawson Renshaw Apartments, been there for decades. I'm really feel so hopeless about the world situation right now. And this I've had a hard time sleeping at night since I heard about this. I just heard about it a few days ago. I just can't believe this is coming up right now. Please give me some kind of hope that you respect these elderly people who've been there for years and they might not be able to afford to go anywhere else. Please, if you have any kind of heart, any kind of conscience, any kind of empathy, and I can bet that a lot of those people in the apartment are women. And the men who've been there probably fought wars. And the women, worked at home and did whatever they could. And, women outlive men, so a lot of them are probably struggling. Please, if you have any kind of heart, any kind of empathy, any kind of conscience, please do not do this.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on any topic that is on our agenda this evening?
Hi, Erin Redmond. I'm on 100 West Elmwood. I'm here in support of seniors. I'm here for a couple of reasons. Support of the seniors, obviously. I echo everything that's been said. Seniors are very underrepresented, although I'm glad they're here to represent themselves tonight. But I do feel like they're very underrepresented in general in communities and, you know, a lot of them have paid for years and voted yes for years on our city, on our schools, on our people. I think that we can continue to support our seniors, and this will extend far beyond the seniors that are impacted directly in that apartment. I think it will send a message to seniors in all of Clawson, who, as you know, proportionally, Clawson has a lot more seniors than most communities. So I think it's very important that we send that message to our seniors. The other item is the ethics ordinance. I see that it is up in front of you again. I am asking that ethics ordinance or ethics complaints that are out in standing maybe be finished up before we try to preemptively for the third time remove ourselves from that ethics complaint. I also think that part of your ethics ordinance that was new this time, but not last time, is a little retaliatory, and it also does not follow your charter. And I think I'm not an attorney, but I think that you should probably run that past a couple of attorneys because it doesn't seem very legal to me. So thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Okay, not seeing anyone else come forward, we'll close public comment for right now. We'll move on to item number 7, which is proclamations and presentations. We have a presentation this evening from our Parks and Recreation Department. And as you see, they're so excited to be here. They're here right now to present. Good evening.
Good evening. We're waiting for Mr. Brown to join us. So we have a couple of things that we'd like to recognize tonight. The first one is the Clawson Lions Club. We found an awesome opportunity last year for senior, let me get this right, older adults technology services. It's an OATS program through AARP that Assistant Director Ball brought to my attention. And we thought it was such a great idea that I ambushed Mr. Brown, similar to how I'm doing tonight, at the Fall Festival. He was kind of trapped in with a couple of other lions because it was raining, so they were under their tent. So I went in there, captive audience, and said, hey, I've got a couple ideas. And one was for them to potentially donate some Chromebooks for us to use for these senior technology programs. And not surprisingly, once they met and talked about it, they did in fact donate those. I'll step aside for a moment to let Lisa tell you a little more about the program, and then we have a certificate of appreciation for the Lions Club.
Yeah, was it late last year? We became a licensed partner. We, submitted application, became that partner of AARP, OATS Technology Program, the Older Adults Technology Services. I became the trainer. I'm trained to teach those classes, and we rolled those classes out in December, which they had long wait lists because some of the most popular classes are on how to use a smartphone. So I'm rolling those classes out again in March. They're repeating, and then we are also doing Chromebook Essentials because I was so happy when we finally got the Chromebooks because we started doing some classes. We do the classes out of the library as well. And we were able to use those Chromebooks and walk, our older adult participants through how to use the devices. And they're just very excited and thrilled and just really empowered by being able to learn how to use this technology because really almost every program now that an older adult is acquainted with, whether, it's Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security, they want you to do things online now. You fill out applications out online. It's very intimidating to them. And these classes really allow us to empower them to not feel so intimidated and just feel comfortable with technology. And it's so much fun. And I'm so glad I get to teach them. And thank you.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. So officially, this certificate of appreciation
is proudly presented to the Clausen Lions Club in appreciation of your generous donation of 8 Chromebooks to the City of Clausen Recreation and Senior Services. Your support has empowered older adults through the ARP OATS technology program, helping them gain valuable digital skills and stay connected. Thank you for your commitment to serving our community.
Thank you so much.
Team effort. It took 37 members to make this happen. And the fundraising that we do, that enables us to do this. And Scott and Lisa are so easy to work with. It didn't take much. When they presented the question to us, it was not a hard answer to come up with. So presented it to the membership, and it was unanimous. It was something we were excited to do as a service, and we've done it before, different, as many know, and we hope we can continue to do it again. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, the means in which to do that. So, but thank you.
Thank you.
And I will.
Bob, I can come back for a second. Can we get a good picture? So we can use it for something, if you don't mind.
Just stand around the
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna take them, but yeah, we can all, I'm sure we can do all do it.
Hey, you guys stand in front.
Yeah, just do that. That'd be great.
Cool.
Yeah. I was just gonna get that.
There's something.
Cheese.
Thank you. Thank you, Clive.
Thank you.
Are we done?
No. Okay, so one more ambush. Lisa does not know this is coming. The National Recreation and Park Association states that the Certified Park and Recreation Professional Certification is the national standard for all parks and recreation professionals who want to be at the forefront of their profession. Attaining the CPRP designation shows that you have met education and experience qualifications and illustrates a commitment to the profession, as well as a knowledge and understanding of key concepts within parks and recreation. The CPRP exam includes 150 questions and covers 5 core competencies: operations, programming, human resources, finance, and communication. In order to assure the relevancy of the Certified Park and Recreation Professional Examination, a job analysis is conducted approximately every 5 years. The National Certification Board and NRPA completed a CPRP job analysis in 2021. The examination is based on the outcomes of the job analysis. The resulting exam content outline is a reflection of the role of hundreds of park and recreation professionals. And last week, we found out that our Lisa Ball passed, and she is now a certified park and recreation professional. So congratulations. And welcome. I know you didn't know.
Well, thank you. Yes, it was what I studied on and off for like almost a year. So, and I passed, and I was so relieved when I passed the social work examination a few years back. The computer would say passed after you were done doing it. And then now they don't do that because maybe people kind of broke down if they didn't pass the test. I didn't see that. And they just slid me this piece of paper face down, and I'm like, oh, I must have failed. And I was like, so it was a relief, and I'm glad I passed, and thank you for acknowledging and recognizing that. I appreciate it.
And anyone who knows Lisa knows she works 100% for whatever she does, and she's highly admired, and she has really strong work ethic, and she's really good at garnering volunteers, and the people at the Hunter Community Center love you. So thanks for all that you do.
And that was the necklace. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All done now?
Yes, no more ambushes.
Okay, we're gonna move on to item number 8A, which would be consideration of approving the following consent agenda. We have item A, which would be minutes of the regular city council meeting held on Tuesday, January 21st, 2025, as presented. And item B would be a list of bills in the amount of $1,726,652.29.
So moved.
Thank you.
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Great, thank you. We've approved our consent agenda and we'll move on to item 9A. Item 9A is consideration of a resolution authorizing issuance of the 2025 unlimited tax general obligation bonds.
Madam Mayor, move to approve the resolution authorizing issuance of the 2025 unlimited tax general obligation bonds be approved as presented and on file with the clerk.
Support.
Mr. Raker?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Per our bond counsel, Mr. McGow's letter, enclosed is the resolution authorizing issuance of the 2025 unlimited tax general obligation bonds, known as the resolution, for consideration for approval by the city council at this meeting. The resolution authorizes the issuance of bonds in the amount not to exceed $24,500,000 as the first series of bonds issued pursuant to the infrastructure bond proposal approved by the city voters at the November 24th election for the purpose of paying all or part of the costs to acquire, construct, reconstruct, and improve infrastructure for the city, including road and street improvements, water main replacement and improvements, sanitary sewer improvements, and storm sewer improvements, together with all related site improvements known as the project. The resolution is based upon the bond specifications prepared by PFM Financial Advisors LLC, the city's financial advisors. The bonds will pledge the city's unlimited tax full faith and credit for support of the bonds and may be paid for the special debt millage levied to pay the debt service on the bonds. The resolution sets forth the terms of the bonds, the form of the bonds, the form of notice of sale, and provides for a competitive public sale of the bonds. The resolution also authorizes various city officials to take the necessary actions to issue, sell, and deliver the bonds, and delegates the authority to award the bonds to the city manager and/or finance director. The enclosed resolution is the only remaining approval for the city council needed to issue and sell this first series of bonds. Mr. Pat McGow of Miller Canfield is present for discussion.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. McGow. How are you?
Good evening. I am well, thanks.
Great. Glad to have you with us.
Glad to be here. The last time I was here was last summer when we were discussing this proposal at great length and submitted it to the voters in November, and the voters supported it. So now we're ready to move forward with the issuance and sale of the first series, which is intended to pay for a few years worth of projects here and get that underway so that the city can start building the infrastructure that the voters approved. I think that kind of summarized what the resolution is. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Just a reminder to the council and the public, the original ballot proposal was for an amount not to exceed $64,500,000. But the idea is that this is going to be issued in several series over the next 8 or so years to basically pay for the projects in chunks. So not all the money is coming in at once, but it's going to be used to pay for these projects over the next several years. You can't do too much in 1 year. And it's also was designed to kind of keep the millage rate, the debt millage necessary to pay it back at a very level threshold once we get into this. So that was really the timing of the structure. So these bonds are going to be issued in 4 different series as projected. This first one's going to be for maybe 3 years worth of construction and then 2 years after that. So, and that can change depending on the needs, but that's essentially what the financial plan was based on the modeling with interest rates and things like that, and just how many projects you can actually do in any given year.
Great. Does you have any questions? Okay, well, we thank you for.
Okay, great.
spending time
Thank you.
with us. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes. Thank you. We've just approved a resolution authorizing issuance of the 2025 unlimited tax general obligation bonds. And we'll move on to the next item, which is item 9B, which is consideration of the second quarter budget amendment for fiscal year 2024-2025.
Madam Mayor, I move the second quarter budget amendments effective on December 31st, 2024 for fiscal year 2024 to 2025 be approved as presented.
Support.
Thank you. Mr. Raker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Per the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act, PA 2 of 1968, Section 141.47, Section 17, subsection 1, except as otherwise provided in Section 19, deviation from the original General Appropriations Act shall not be made without amending the General Appropriations Act. Subject to Section 16, subsection 2, the legislative body of the local unit shall amend the General Appropriations Act as soon as it becomes apparent that a deviation from the original General Appropriations Act is necessary and the amount of that deviation can be determined. An amendment shall indicate each intended alteration in the purpose of each appropriation item affected by the amendment. A summary of the budget amendment is as follows. General Fund 101, the net impact of the budget amendments will change the amended budgeted surplus of $341,880 to amended budgeted surplus of $199,730. Major Street Fund 202, the net impact of the budget's amendments will change the amendment budget deficit of $390,730 to an amended budget deficit of $406,730. Local Street Fund 203, the net impact of the budget amendments will leave the amended budget deficit of $140,050, the same as it was. Library Fund 271, the net impact of the budget amendments will increase the original budget deficit of $13,345 to an amended budget deficit of $16,345. Water and Sewer Fund 592, the net impact of the budget amendments will decrease the original budget deficit from $1,393,187 to an amended budget deficit of $488,537. Motor Equipment Fund 667, the net impact of the budget amendments will decrease the original budgeted surplus of $164,245 to an amended budget surplus of $157,245. All other funds have been reviewed for the second quarter and do not need amendments at this time. Mr. Mark Pollack is present for discussion.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Pollack.
Good evening.
Thanks for joining us this evening.
You're welcome. It's good to be here. People lately saying it's good to be seen when they say good to see you, so it's good to be seen. The good news with all of these amendments, and I know Councilmember Moffett mentioned, last time I was here, we hear a lot of deficit in these numbers. The good news is that we do have healthy surpluses in our funds, which allows us to spend some of that surplus. So you hear it as a deficit, but it's really spending our reserves, which is fiscally responsible. And I know this council's made every effort to continue to do that. With these amendments, everything will still be extremely healthy. We will still have a healthy water and sewer working capital, which is what we utilize. It's really just our current assets, cash and things that are readily spendable within a year, and our current liabilities, which is what we owe within a year. We still have, after all these, we'll have about a $1.8 million surplus in water and sewer. So the good news is even with these deficits that are budgeted and now amended, we still are in good shape with our budget, or with our surpluses. So that's the best news. And I'll answer any specific questions you might have. Happy to.
Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you for anticipating my thoughts.
Yes, I remember you saying, and we did have a lot of budgeted deficits, and we still have a lot of budgeted deficits, but the good news is we're expending our reserves, which again is being fiscally responsible. We still have healthy reserves, rainy day funds. So this is being fiscally responsible. And like I said, this council's made a commitment to doing that, putting skin in the game, we keep saying as well, doing road work, infrastructure to supplement that 24.5 million. We will continue to do that.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for your time. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Thank you. We have just approved our second quarter budget amendments effective 12/31/2024 for fiscal year 2024 and 25. And we'll move on to item 9C. Item 9C is consideration of a motion to commit to fund a school resource officer in the forthcoming 2025-2026 fiscal year budget.
So moved.
Support. Mr. Raker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Please recall that the funding of a school resource officer, SRO, was on an agenda item at the January 13th joint meeting between the Clawson Public Schools and the City of Clawson, and the City of Clawson City Council. During that meeting, it was explained that the SRO position would be jointly funded with the school district funding 75% of the cost and the city funding the remaining 25% of the cost. The officer would be assigned to the school district while during the school year and would augment the police force shifts during the summer months. The administration estimates this will be an additional $50,000 a year expenditure, which we believe can be sustained year to year. Both the city and school district will pursue any available grants to offset the cost. The Public School Board of Education will be considering a similar resolution of commitment at their February regular school board meeting.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
During the summertime, this officer may be required over at Kenwood or some other location for the schools, or?
That wasn't necessarily anticipated, but sir, we can discuss that if it's necessary.
I think during the meeting, Chief Biles was talking about, she had sort of a plan for some community outreach and stuff for this particular person. So she had a plan for the summer months for the position as well, so.
Well, additionally, it was to offset the need for bodies during the summer because we are so heavily, we utilize them so much for the extra activities we have throughout the community. So that was the idea, is hopefully it will take the burden off of the police force because it gives one extra body to perhaps fuel some of our special events, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I really appreciate this one. So yeah, it gives me, and I think it does for a lot of parents in our community that attend these schools. So yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, and I had a question today from someone who said we're funding $50,000, which is a quarter of this person's salary. So please note that an employee's salary plus employee costs equal an increasingly higher number than what you might think. So they're probably not going to make that number that you're looking at when you do math of 4 times 50, but our costs, the employee costs are great for their pension, for their benefits and such. So know that that number is not a hard, fast salary number, right? It's overall.
We did budget on the high side because it depends on which officer would actually get that position, if it's a high tenured officer or a new officer.
Good. All that's built in. Great. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Thank you. We've just agreed to commit to fund a school resource officer within the forthcoming 25-26 fiscal year, amount of $50,000. Moving on to the next item, we're at item 9B on our agenda, and this is consideration of the special event request by the Clawson Lions Club to hold their 27th annual Down on Main Street charity car show.
Madam Mayor, I move the special event request by the Clawson Lions Club to hold their 27th annual Down on Main Street charity car show be approved as presented.
Support.
Thank you. Mr. Raker.
The Clawson Lions Club is requesting to hold its 27th annual car show on August 9th, 2025. The Lions Club is requesting to have Main Street closed off from 14 Mile to Chippewa for the time of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Round of the Clawson Lions is present. If there are any questions.
Do you have something you'd like to share with us?
I do.
Come on over. Come on back.
Only to say from the Clawson Lions Club, thank you all so very much for allowing us to continue this fundraising event. It's such a cooperative community. Clausen Lions have been in the community 80 years as of June of last year. And there's several things that we've done that most people haven't heard of. Lion Greg goes back to at least one more than I do. He's a year older. We've sold chickens, Christmas trees. We've done charity poker events. We're still doing those. The car show, obviously, that's been huge. And I hope that I feel that it has brought to the community everything that was promised in the first show, which was to be a benefit to the community, to the businesses along the corridor, and to, as the founder of this, Lion Howie Harris, put Clausen on the map, which he was glad to receive an award presentation actually from the Clausen Chamber. And so anyway, this is all huge. There's 37 Clausen Lions. They all participate. Everybody's got, on game day, everybody's in. We have volunteers that have been gracious to help us. And, again, I just want to say thank you. And we're going to keep at it as long as we can and as long as you'll approve it. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We appreciate all you and the Lions do for our community. You're an exceptional group of people who
Yeah.
are great volunteers. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
But wait, I have to go back to the meeting. Did you say you sold chickens?
Yes, I didn't.
Okay.
That was BC. That was before Clive.
Wow.
But yes, there's several things, Greg put together a history that he shared with us about some of the things that he remembers. And we have some other Lions some that have passed, that have been Lions for 60 years. And they've shared some of the fundraising events, and some of them are chin droppers. It's like, wow, I don't think we could do that today. So, but yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Never heard of selling chickens for a chicken, but not chickens.
So that was chickens.
Thank you. So
No
much.
eggs, just chickens.
Thank you. May we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. We've just approved our 27th annual Down on Main Street charity car show for our Lions. Thank you for that. Next up, we have agenda item 9E, which is consideration of the special event request by the Clausen DDA for the Cinema in the Street to be held on South Main Street at 14 Mile Road.
Madam Mayor, I move the special event request by the Clausen DDA to conduct their annual event of Cinema in the Street to be held on July 19th, 2025 from 4:30 p.m. to midnight be approved as presented.
Support.
Mr. Aker.
Thank you, Mayor. The 17th Annual Cinema in the Street event is scheduled for July 19, 2025, from 4:30 p.m. to midnight to be held on South Main Street at 14 Mile Road. Road closures will be the same as the past 16 years. Please see the attached map. The event will have a large-scale movie screen and family entertainment. Barricades and barriers will be needed for road closures as well as additional trash cans.
Thank you. Kristen's here this evening. Kristen, do you have anything you want to add for us? Kristen's been serving as the liaison with the DDA. She's doing an exceptional job getting to know all of these things and processes, and we're not taking on chickens, so. Right?
I'll just say, it's been my honor to serve as the DDA liaison, so I'm having a great time and I am looking forward to all the fun summer events.
Great, thank you.
Is there a movie decided yet?
Not yet, but if you send an email in to the DDA director at cityofclausen.com, we're taking any inquiries. Yes, yes. So there's a list of all the history of movies, so feel free. So far, all we've got is Lassie, so.
Perfect.
Oh, I wonder who did that. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
A roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes. Thank you. We've just approved our special event request for the Clausen DDA to hold a cinema in the street on July 19th. Mark your calendars, get your chairs by the door, and be ready to come and have a good night doing that. Oh, and also send in your movie request. Moving on to agenda item 9F, we have consideration of the special event request by the Clausen DDA for the Clausen Fest event to be held on South Main Street at 14 Mill Road.
Madam Mayor, I move the special event request by the Clausen DDA for the Clausen Fest to conduct their annual event on August 23rd, 2025 from noon to 8 p.m. be approved as presented.
Support.
Thank you. Mr. Raker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Clausen Fest Annual Event is scheduled for August 23rd, 2025, from noon to 8 p.m. to be held on South Main Street at 14 Mile Road. Please see the map. The event will host live music, food vendors, as well as craft and sales vendors, along with activities for children. All applicable city ordinances will be followed, and all food vendors will receive health department approvals as required. Barricades and barriers will be needed for road closures, as well as additional containers for trash. In-person meetings with the event sponsors and city staff will be scheduled to aid in planning to ensure a successful and safe event.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions about Clausen Fest?
How many years has this been?
This will be the 5th year, I believe.
Okay. Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes,
thank you. We've approved the Clausen Fest to be held on August 23rd, 2025. Put that on your calendars too. Looking forward to summer, aren't we? After the past couple of weeks, that'd be nice. Moving on to item 9G, we have consideration of receiving and filing the 2024 Planning Commission Annual Report.
Madam Mayor, I move to receive and file the 2024 Planning Commission Annual Report.
Report.
Nick,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Michigan Planning Enabling Act PA 33 of 2008 as amended requires the Planning Commission to prepare, file, and present an annual written report to the City Council. This document is intended to meet the state requirements as well as provide an overview of the Planning Commission 2024 accomplishments.
does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. Then roll call, please. We don't need it because we're moving and filing, right? So
Receiving and filing.
receiving and filing. So I guess we can aptly say we've received and shall file said report. Okay, great. Moving on to item 9H. We have consideration of the planned unit development agreement for 150 North Main and 36 Lincoln.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the planned unit development agreement for 150 North Main and 36 Lincoln, and to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the agreement.
Support.
Support.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. During the January 7th, 2025 City Council meeting, the City Council approved the planned unit development for 150 North Main and 36 Lincoln. The City Council is required to review and approve the PUD development agreement in its final form, authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the agreement on behalf of the city, and ensure that all required exhibits, project plan, planning commission resolution, and legal description are attached and properly recorded. Staff will be present if there are any questions.
Great. I see the gentlemen are here. Does anyone have anything they want to add to this? Do you have any highlights you want to share with us? Or are we just going to say, okay? Any questions from anyone? You're welcome to come forward. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you guys? Good to see you guys all again. And I just wanted to say we look forward to this development and working with the city going forward. It's great to hear all the events and different things that the city is putting on this summer, and we're excited to be a part of it and help stay here and grow with the city.
Great. Thank you. Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Thank you. We've just approved the planned unit development agreement for 150 North Main and 36 Lincoln, and have authorized the agreement to be executed. We'll move on to the next item, which is item 9I. Consideration of a first reading of an ordinance to amend Clausen Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 5, Finance, to add Division 3 contracts.
So moved.
Thank you.
Support.
Thank you. Mr. Raker?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Per the new charter, chapter 14.01, the city council shall establish by ordinance the procedures for the purchasing or contracting for supplies, materials, equipment, and services. This item was before you on January 7th and was not supported by council due to the removal of the waiver of competitive bidding requirement, of which would have required 4 members of council to vote in the affirmative. That component has been included in this version and was discussed at the ordinance committee meeting on January 21st, 2025, pardon me. The ordinance committee debated the contents before you at length with consensus, noting that the purchasing threshold was an item that may require further discussion of the full council.
Thank you. Would someone like to point out what the threshold was originally and what it's currently states, just for people who might not see it, might want to know?
Madam Mayor, it was 3 previously. At this point, per conversations that occurred during council meetings as well as the Ordinance Review Committee, we've increased that. The Ordinance Review Committee thought it appropriate to increase that number to 4. You will recall, of course, that there was additional conversation during council meetings with council members also recommending that a percentage be added. Part of the Ordinance Review Committee conversation that took place, Madam Mayor, as you will recall, was that because the new charter takes effect in staggered portions over time, as far as the number of the members serving council, currently at 5, but then we'll increase to 6 at the next election if the May election does not stop at that particular count. And then subsequently we'll increase to 7. The Ordinance Review Committee considered it best that we address the issue at this particular moment in time by increasing the number to 4 votes, as opposed to doing a percentage point to address something that has not transpired yet and may not come to pass. So that is the consideration that you have before you, and that is the reasoning behind it per the committee.
Thank you.
So it seems to me that the 4/5 would be a more permanent way of expressing this, because as the council grows, then as you add people, then it dilutes the impact of the number 4. So if we make it 4/5, I mean, 4/5 can be 4/5 of 7, of 10, of 12, or whatever. It's a fraction. It's simple multiplication. So I think that there's more wisdom in leaving it as a percentage or a fraction, so that it doesn't have to go back and change it as the council grows. So I wouldn't support this because it doesn't look to the future. It sets up the need for it to be amended as the council grows to maintain the intent of that number.
Obviously, this is the decision of the body. I have no
I
say.
don't, I'm not, I was just looking at you because you were talking, but I'm just putting it out there as my thoughts.
If I may, I'll just add one caveat for your consideration. If that were the intent of the body to want to adopt that line of thought, I would recommend that you state it as a percentage, not as 4/5 per se, because that becomes
It becomes a fraction. I get that when it's 7, right?
well, it becomes a fraction, and I can speak for all lawyers. We're not very good at analyzing numbers, so.
So 80% is what 4 divided by 5 is, right? 80%.
Your math.
So I get that. So I would say I would like to see it say 80% versus the number 4, so that we don't have to go back and change it. So as it stands, I wouldn't be able to support it.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I believe we should leave it at 4 because it kind of reflects what the old charter reflected and what is now going to be rolled into a ordinance. So I'm willing to go with the 4 for now. And if need be, we can come back and do this again.
The old charter said 4/5.
Yeah, 4/5, which is 4, so.
No, 4/5 is not 4. 4/5 is 4. It's 80%.
Yeah,
was a fraction
having
before.
5 people in the council kind of lays that in. Yeah,
It was a fraction before, yeah.
okay.
I like farmer math. We'll just keep it for now.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
No,
Councilmember Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes. Thank you. We have approved the first reading of this ordinance regarding. Where am I? I don't know. I'm so confused. We've just, approved this first reading of this, and it will come back before us again. So we can move on to the next one. It is
9J, Madam Mayor.
9J. Thank you. This one is consideration of reading of an ordinance to amend Clausen Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 7, Boards, Section 2-311, Code of Ethics.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Ricker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This item was previously discussed by the ordinance committee on October 15th, 2024 and January 7th, 21st, 2025 respectively. The consensus was to amend the ordinance to be as reflective to the charter language to the extent permissible by state law. The city attorney is available for further discussion.
Thank you.
I could just say briefly, Madam Mayor, that obviously, as Mr. Raker pointed out, this was discussed on 3 different occasions by the Ordinance Review Committee, and the members felt after a considerable back and forth that this version that is presented before you today is the one that most accurately reflects both the will of the committee, but also as it stems from the current mandate of the charter, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Would you be able to give a brief highlight of the changes,
Yeah,
differences
I
we're
think-
wanting to hear?
Yes, ma'am. I think for ultimately, when we look at powers and duties, which is the focus ultimately of the committee, everything remains largely in place, with the major difference being that the committee thought it advisable and thoughtful and proper pursuant to the charter mandate that the considerations of the ethics board be not focused on any individual that comes before the board as they have throughout time, but rather be focused on the issue, and whether the issue itself that is presented to the board is one that raises a concern over ethics. I think that is largely the main difference that we see in the various versions. And obviously the Ordinance Review Committee, as you will note in the sheer size difference between the previous Code of Ethics and the current one, this size difference, the Ordinance Review Committee believed it appropriate to scale down and remove a lot of the extra language that we believe, that the Ordinance Review Committee believed was cause for concern over the years and created a lot of gray areas in the various considerations that the body itself dealt with over time. And the Ordinance Review Committee believes that this particular version was the one that makes the most sense for the community.
Could you give an example of how an issue could be presented without identifying an individual?
Yeah, so I think that's precisely a question that the Ordinance Review Committee grappled with throughout the 3 meetings in question. And ultimately, the determination is made that regardless of the matter that is as submitted to the city manager or the city clerk, regardless of the focus, the individual focus of it, when it's presented to the body, to the ethics board, it will be presented not as to give us, I will use you as an example, if you will permit me, not to give us an opinion of whether Councilmember Sue Moffitt's action was unethical for one way or another, but rather whether this particular action, free of the consideration of who the action was from, whether this constitutes a conflict of interest or an ethical violation pursuant to our Code of Ethics. So it removes the individual, it makes it the issue, which is the proper focus of this board.
So are you envisioning as a complaint is raised, like there would be anonymity with the issue, or?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. We could not do that. Obviously, we were subject to the Open Meetings Act, so there would be no anonymity. We couldn't, and that's part of the issue that we had with the previous version of or with the current version of the Code of Ethics. That there's a statement in there. There's a series of these statements, but among others, there's a statement which stands for the proposition that somehow we will offer anonymity to people who filed these complaints. Well, we couldn't by operation of state law. We have no, this body and no entity in this city has the ability to offer such anonymity. So we had to deprive the new proposed code of ethics of those problematic and concerning portions of the ordinance.
I just can't envision how there could be any kind of discussion about an issue and not discussing the individuals involved. I mean, so it feels like that we're kind of just negating the whole purpose of an ethics committee because there's nothing that they could really do.
Oh, no, I can appreciate the concern, but I would respectfully differ from your opinion, because we're dealing, I think, what the Ordinance Review Committee has submitted to this body is an ordinance that offers a proper analysis as to the issue that is presented, right? There's other laws. Part of the problem with the current ordinance, as we've experienced throughout the years, is that it runs afoul of other laws that are in place, obviously, whether it be our ordinances or the statute of the state of Michigan. It runs afoul of the various contractual and bargaining agreements that we have in place when it comes to the issues of employees. And these issues have come to the forefront on numerous occasions. Thankfully, none have boiled over to litigation, but as I've indicated over time, and we've addressed, and frankly, you've addressed.
Oh, I know. I trust me. I've been the biggest, yelling at the podium about the ethics committee. I get it. I feel like it's going to the other extreme where I can't, and maybe it's just because I'm not an attorney. I can't envision anything that could be brought forth that would meet the criteria of just an issue without identifying the people. That's why I asked for an example.
Again, the example remains people, I presume, whomever wishes to file is not going to amend their filings. And on average, we're not going to have attorneys filing these issues. They're going to file them as they please. It's the consideration of the body that makes the difference.
Okay, that's helpful. So it's how they're going to approach deliberating the information presented.
Yes.
Gotcha, cool. One other question, and I didn't see it in here, and I don't know exactly where it lives, but that whole document that everyone's supposed to submit that's always under consternation, is that removed from the ordinance, or is that still there?
It's there. It has, but we have some limitation with respect to the document. As a matter of fact, in our ordinance review committee today, we had some additional conversation with respect to that portion of it. And we may bring back that particular portion to the body for further consideration. Right now, under disclosure, ma'am, which is C, you have officials with major decision-making authority over expenditures and contractual matters will disclose any conflicts of interest as outlined in section B above, which shall be kept by the city clerk and updated as needed on an ongoing basis. That's the disclosure form that it reflects.
Oh, so that's so it doesn't specifically say that form has to be turned in on a regular basis. It's just very vague.
That's procedure that the administration will take care of. I imagine Mr. Raker and the city clerk will take care of that. And if you recall, obviously the Board of Ethics has already drafted forms and all of this information already exists. A lot of these forms from all of us have already been turned in over the years. That just, limits that, the obligation, I think, to an appropriate basis. And obviously the Ordinance Review Committee thought that it would be an appropriate way to do that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, sorry.
I'm here every Tuesday.
Every other Tuesday. Or other Tuesday. During public discussion, there was a question about the matters still or out that are resolved yet or pending. But you kind of answered that, but I want to make sure you're saying that those matters are still going to be considered, but just in a different manner now going forward. So those will still be processed if they're filed out there.
Yes, ma'am. This body cannot create ex post facto laws. As such, we cannot revert and change whatever has transpired in the past and or has been filed in the past. None of that is being affected. Conduct of the past is not being affected. We're simply looking forward.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And just for clarity, we are not trying to not disclose whom the subject of of a complaint, an ethics complaint. We're just requesting that the ethics body does not look at that person, but they look at the issue only.
The
Just for, for clarity, there's no hiding any of it. There's not something that's gonna be not disclosed. It will just be, we will ask that body to deliberate based on the issue and not based on the body attached to it.
Yes, ma'am. This was the opinion of the ordinance review committee as they reviewed the charter, of course, and the limitations that the new charter has placed upon us.
Right. As much as that can be done, right? Because it's people doing people things, so.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else have any questions? Let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett.
Yes. Thank you. We have just approved our first reading of the Clausen Code of Ordinances for ethics, and that will come back before us again in the future. Next item is item 9K. We have consideration of the first reading of an ordinance to provide for the separation of employees, elected officials, and appointed officials from the city of Clausen upon a conviction of a crime.
So moved.
Mr. Raker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The idea of this ordinance came through discussion regarding the ethics ordinance within the ordinance working group, which is comprised of the city attorney, key staff, and myself. The working group addressed priorities and this working group addresses priorities and develops language for the ordinance committee's consideration. This item was discussed at both the January 7th, 27th, 7th, and 21st ordinance committee meetings. As section 1 purpose of this ordinance states, the purpose of this ordinance is to uphold the public trust and ensure the integrity of the city of Clausen by providing for the termination of employment or removal from office of employees, elected officials, and appointed officials who are convicted of crimes that undermine their ability to serve the public effectively.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I'm happy to respond to any questions that you may have, but that's obviously I agree with the city manager. This was a conversation that occurred and the debate that occurred when the ordinance review committee was considering the ethics ordinance. This was just one more way to beef up it was meant to be a companion. It is meant to be a companion ordinance to the ethics ordinance and to strengthen the standard because we don't have one. As part of a conversation, we considered other municipalities that face this issue with their city managers and other officials that were over time convicted of crimes and all of a sudden the municipality didn't really have a way to address the issue, whereas perhaps there's a desire in situations of convictions to do so. Our code of ordinances, as a charter, has several statements spread throughout that deal with issues such as this. It simply makes it more specific and narrowly tailors the issues.
Isn't the governor the only person who can remove an elected official from office?
An elected official, yes.
Yes, so this says elected officials though.
Yeah.
So an elected official can't be removed from office by the city.
Right.
It would have to, so that's how it reads though currently. I think that it needs to be revised to say that the city clerk would pursue actions with the governor to remove an elected official from office, but the city has no authority to remove an elected official from office. Like the city clerk can't do it, no one here can do it, only the governor can do it.
But part of the conversation, as a matter of fact, today was in the ordinance review committee, it revolved around that very topic. I think the process, we cannot create a process that we don't have authority to do so. The process that this envisions when it comes to elected officials, and that was our conversation today, would be the one to follow up through with the city manager and clerk to follow up with the governor of the state of Michigan with respect.
Shouldn't that be identified though? It should be revised to, because it talks about the city clerk is gonna remove someone but no one, it doesn't clearly acknowledge that no one in the city has any authority to remove an elected official. I think it should specify that the appropriate actions will be taken with the governor to, notify the governor and move forward with that taking place, but no one in the city can do that. I think it should be revised to clarify who has the authority to actually take that action.
Again, we had the conversation today, obviously and that was, again, the stated concern. I don't think you're alone in that regard. This is a stated concern. If the body feels, if the rest of the body, obviously, we're having a conversation, but if the rest of the body feels that way as well, we're happy. We can take it back and review it and clarify.
So I'll make a motion.
Please, if you don't mind. Didn't we state in that meeting, though, that this would be the idea, but the other would follow up with a process,
We'll follow
which
up
would
with
be
the process.
identified once this were approved.
Yeah.
Which it follows along how most of our ordinances work. They do not have the processes built in the ordinance.
Precisely, and I think, Councilmember Member Muffet, pardon me. Member Muffet is indicating that, she would like to see it as part of this. Our conversation was exactly that, Madam Mayor, that the next step that we would follow up with would be the process. We would design the process with respect to all of this. But obviously, it's the body's preference, and we stand ready to amend as needed.
So as we've done in the past, I can make a motion that it be revised, and it still can come for a second meeting or a second reading with the revisions. So my motion would be that the ordinance be revised to clearly identify who has the authority or that the authority would be taken to notify the governor or something along those lines to make it clear that the city doesn't have the authority.
So then, if I may,
Yes.
would basically the ordinance would begin the process of appealing to the governor?
Correct, that it identifies that that's what's going to happen, to acknowledge the appropriate authorities, so it just be revised and presented at the second reading with that revision is my motion.
If I may, well, I don't know, there's a second. If there is a second, then
Support.
Thank you. If I may, ma'am, I would, in that instance, I would recommend that we bring it back for a first reading, as opposed to a second reading. Let's not.
I yield to your wisdom.
Thank you.
I still
Thank you
support
for
that. It's coming back from first reading.
Okay.
All right. So one of the things that we saw that, our charter needed fixing was that there's a lot of laws that were preceded by what is state law. Would this run up against that by saying and identifying who the responsible is?
No.
It's already codified in state law.
It is codified as state law, and I think what Mayor Pro Tem Moffitt is referencing is the recall petitions and how recalls work, okay, which is slightly different than this. However, we are going to present you, if this once upon your vote, given the conversation that occurred today at the Ordinance Review Committee, it may make sense then to, and if the vote of the council be that way, it may make sense to merge those two concepts, certainly with respect to this, clarify this somewhat and designate the process right here in this particular ordinance, which is why I would, I would recommend, if we're sending it back, to bring it back for a first reading.
I think it helps too for the, not just for like how to function, but for the public to understand what the course of action would be if something like that were to happen, because people tend to, we need to light our torches and get our pitchforks, and so that they understand exactly what the proper procedure is.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So then.
So this amendment to
Right.
what we voted on, but the amendment is to first reading for a first reading.
First reading, first reading.
Okay.
The amendment is to have it revised,
Yes.
and it's brought back for first reading.
Okay. Okay.
Roll call, please, for the amendment.
Mayor Milan,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffitt,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
So
So now the motion is amended so we still need a vote, Madam Mayor, for the main motion as amended.
okay, so let's do that. please, and thank you.
So just to clarify, so because we voted to send it back, then we would vote.
You vote yes because you've amended it. So
Right.
if you vote yes, then it goes back and we'll bring it back to
Okay.
you.
Oh, I
If
got
you
you.
voted down,
Okay,
then it
you're right.
died.
Okay.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett.
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Thank you. So we will see this again in its first form. Again. Moving on to item 9L, we have consideration of the first reading of an ordinance to amend chapter 36 sign regulations.
So moved.
Support.
Nick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Included in this proposed ordinance amendment are 5 amendments to the sign ordinance. These amendments include proposed changes to existing language and also clarification on items that were included in the amended 2023 sign ordinance amendment. The amendment includes the following. 36-4 upper wall signs in the city center and CMD districts, which are in downtown. This amendment will allow additional signage for second floor commercial uses. The current language in the ordinance restricts these businesses to limited signage. The amendment will allow more flexibility for second floor businesses and is more aligned with the rest of the provisions in place for businesses in downtown Clawson, which is essentially for 1 linear foot of frontage, 1 square foot of signage. 36-5 mural language provides the standards for murals and public art that were included in the previous sign ordinance that were omitted from the 2023 sign ordinance update in anticipation of a new mural program that was not developed, should have said not developed in the cover sheet. For some reason, I don't recall as to why the mural language was removed in 2023. Apparently, it looked like there was some mural standards supposed to be developed, which never got done. And so we would like to re-include those 3 standards related to murals so the planning commission can review them effectively. I know that there's been a strong desire in downtown and throughout Clawson to have some more public art. And so having those provisions in there is important. Third one is 36-6 temporary A-frame signage. This would allow businesses to use temporary A-frame signs in non-city center and CMD districts. Included in the amendment are enforcement guidelines for non-compliance if they do not follow the existing temporary sign standards for the businesses that are allowed to use temporary A-frame signs in the city center and CMD districts. 36-7 non-conforming signs includes an amendment for existing freestanding signs that would allow multiple tenant freestanding signs to replace panels as long as the freestanding sign is in compliance with the height requirement. 5 is the repeals. The previous amendment to the sign ordinance language is understood by the city to repeal the sections listed below. However, the code service has not been removed those sections, and this amendment explicitly repeals them in order to get them removed from the online sign code. Those sections are 36-8 through 36-20. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, thank you, Nick. Vince?
So, if I may,
Oh, sure.
so, we have temporary, advertisements in windows. And sometimes they are, partially opaque. How does that, comport with the amendment or the ordinance?
This does not apply to those standards, and none of these amendments do.
Okay.
And that specific regulation is for downtown. I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, but there's a certain amount that they're allowed to block their window coverage because more window space invites more walkable downtown. And so that's why that provision is there.
So the lights are not on this, obviously, and.
Correct. This amendment just includes these 5 items, which again, there's really only 3 changes to clarifications.
Okay, let's please.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes,
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
thank you. We've just approved our first reading of an ordinance to amend chapter 36 sign regulations, and we will see that one again soon too. Item 9M, we have consideration of placing the sale of Renshaw Senior Apartments located at 121 Renshaw on the May special election ballot.
So move.
Support.
Mr. Aker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Per the city's charter, section 3.03, property acquisition, development, disposition. The city shall have power to maintain, develop, operate, lease, and dispose of its property, subject to any restrictions placed thereupon by law or this charter, provided that no property of value in excess of $400,000. And I'm parsing the text to make direct sense to this issue. In excess of $400,000 shall be sold unless approved by a majority of the electors voting thereon at a city election. Concern for Renshaw came about during the development of the 2023-24 budget. Substantial improvements were being considered, which forced the administration to consider what it would take to bring the structure into total ADA compliance. Attached are documents pertaining to the historical contents of this agenda item from previous administrators and the ADA building audit report, which includes projected costs. Also attached are the legal concerns from our city attorney, which were discussed in closed session during the last regular city council meeting. The administration believes the city should not be in the business of being a landlord and encourages council to consider placing the issue of selling Renshaw on the ballot for the residents to decide. Within the historical context documents provided, a former city manager provided draft ballot language that would have used the proceeds from the sale for infrastructure. Perhaps consideration of using those proceeds for sustainment and improvement of senior services would be a more equitable use of city resources for all senior citizens. That consideration also aligns with Goal 1, deepen sense of place and community identity, Objective 11, and identify the best use of city property to ensure equitable access to quality public spaces. Staff are present for discussion.
Thank you. So first of all, the city council cannot make the decision of whether or not this property were to be sold. If that is 100% a resident. The voters of Clawson would have to determine that. We're here this evening just to discuss it, to see if Clawson, the city council would be willing to move it forward to the voters. What do we have for comments? So.
Mr. Nishai, if the went on the ballot and the voters approved the sale, I assume that sale will still have to be approved by council.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It'll be back before you.
And Mr. Raker, what is the estimated value of the property?
So we have not conducted sought out an official estimation, but we've had unsolicited offers from anywhere from $1 to $1.2 million.
Okay. Well, so if we were to sell the property, we could sell it with conditions. In other words, I for one would not support just selling the property and letting the new owner just do what he wants to do with it. We have a legacy obligation to the current renters, I believe. So we would have to set up some kind of a bridge program to where perhaps they'd be grandfathered in. I'm assuming $1 million could help fund that pretty well. Not that we use the whole million, but I'm assuming some conditions could be set to ease the transition from city ownership to private ownership.
To that point, the people that did approach with unsolicited offers had empathy in mind in as far as a transitioning period or a period of time where they could stay in place with perhaps even holding the rents at their current rates possibly. So there are the people that did approach it, they had those concerns in mind.
Okay.
So those are the conditions that you're considering?
I'm just saying we would define some kind of conditions on the sale. We wouldn't just sell the property and walk away and leave the renters at the mercy of whatever the new owner is. But rather it'd be some kind of conditions that would respect them.
So as far as who's approached, have they given any detail on that transition or?
No, sir, we haven't even, we knew this would have to go before the voters.
Yeah.
And we really didn't, and we know that this is a sensitive issue and this is a small town and any breath of, indicating that this was going to be potential sale would create concern. And so until we actually were going to put it on the agenda, we just really didn't have much to say about it.
I think I'd like to see before we consider putting it on a ballot, I think we'd like to see some presentations from those potential buyers or an understanding of what our what our legal reach is to hold potential buyers accountable for protecting the citizens. I mean, it seems like there's some more work that should be done, some more discussions that should be had in the public forum about what the ramifications of something like this are before we say, yes, we're going to put it on the ballot. I mean, there's a lot of stress to the residents for having something like that. I think everybody needs to understand the full picture of how it's going to go down, how it could go down, and what our ability to control how it goes down be had in a public forum before we put it on a ballot, would be my thoughts.
I would agree with the pro tem that a full presentation should be made, but I think it's more appropriate after the election. Because until we're empowered by the voters to sell this, we are powerless. We can do nothing. No presentation that we look at will have any significance. But I totally agree. If the election is held and if the voters authorize us to sell the property, I totally agree. A full presentation needs to be made.
I'm thinking of a full presentation so people can appropriately educate themselves on how they vote, you know, what the ramifications are. I mean, if we say, oh, we're going to make sure that they do X, Y, and Z, but if we don't have any legal reach to do that, the people need to understand what kind of parameters we can put on a potential buyer and what we can't. I mean, it's all theoretical right now.
Mr. Raper?
I think the council is just, and maybe the city attorney can chime in, the council still has all the authority. It's just permission to sell it. It's not a directive from the residents to sell it. So you have all of the, am I right there?
You are correct. Yeah, and I think Councilmember Anderson accurately summarized it as far as that is concerned. But to answer your question, ma'am, the city, if the electors were to give this body the authority to sell, and only if, then this body would be able to place any limitation it deems appropriate on the sale, even maintaining all the residents for their lifetime. Obviously, it will affect pricing, but we could do so both by way of purchasing agreement. You could, as well as by having it a condition on the deed of sale. At the same time, you can have limitations on price increases. You could develop all that in the purchase agreement that the parties would entertain.
You're right. We can ask anything, but as we saw, like with the PUD, we have to come to a compromise. So we can ask for the world, but that doesn't mean we're going to get it. And so having those conversations before with potential buyers and what they would be willing to agree to and that kind of thing is the conversations I feel should be had so that people can make an educated decision about whether or not we're going to, you know, leave these people out in the street if we go ahead with trying to make a sale or not. We need to understand what sellers or what buyers are going to be willing to compromise and agree to, is my
So if we
point.
put the conditions down now on what the sale would be. So say that whoever exists there now potentially could be there in perpetuity, but not have new tenants arrive, right? Because we can have any decision on, we could close down any sale that we want, right? We don't need to move forward with
You know,
anything,
absolutely.
right? But at least we can have what the conditions would be, right? As part of what we're going to be potentially putting on a ballot.
I think it'd be a stretch that an investor would spend time on something that is not even for sale or there's the potential for sale.
I think it would be a good PR opportunity for them to be with the public, so they might embrace that.
I agree, Mayor Pro Tem, that it would be good to have the informed voters vote on this. However, I don't know that, as the city manager said, we can interest a developer in making a presentation when the property isn't even authorized for sale, let alone for sale. So perhaps what you're looking for, we need to put into the ballot language, not just simply say, do the voters authorize the sale of Renshaw, but and I don't know how it'd be worded, but explaining the conditions of some sort.
I'll defer to the city attorney on that one.
Councilmember Anderson, of course you could do that. The charter is silent on it. It just simply says that the voters have the authority, the electorate of the city of Clawson has the authority to approve the sale. There's nothing else. Could you place a condition on the ballot? Absolutely, you could place a condition. I would submit to you that the appropriate way to do it would be at the purchase agreement portion, once you have the authority. But you could do it at any time.
I think what Mayor Pro Tem is saying is that when we present the voters, they might want more information than simply, can we sell or not sell? Because this is a very sensitive
But
issue.
what does a sale look like?
Right, but I think, and I'm not disputing that, on the contrary, I imagine just like, to the extent that council has done this in the past, just like you have on other issues, even recently with respect to bond, you would provide information by way of a educational campaign as to what can and cannot happen. So, this would be handled no differently if council decides to go that way, and if the voters were to give you that authority.
And then even after that, council still doesn't have to sell.
And you don't.
We have the, not necessarily veto, but the ability to say no.
Right, absolutely.
So I think we all want the same thing. We're just kind of debating on how we achieve it. So.
It's, going back, I saw that, 2018, Mr. Kingsup had come up with some backstory on it, but it kind of was lacking in my opinion. So I just did some digging myself. It looks like as a result of a survey that was done in 1979 for residents at that time, that we were in a much different financial situation. Not to say that any people's financial situation is any better or worse now, but at that point in time, we were going through a dark economic times, and home values at that point were affected by many things. We had taxes for homeowners that were out of control. So ultimately, in the early 80s, there was a change for cut and cap that was able to at least protect to some degree homeowners so that you could stay in your homes. So this was an impetus that was done by the city that was prior to that. And I give them a lot of credit for wanting to try and do that. But when you look at it, they spent $124,000 that they got for a grant, and then they spent another $40,000 on top of that in $1980 money. That works out to be about a little over $900,000 that they spent in building a home for 15 people. All right, if we were to go to the voters now and say, yeah, we need $1 million just for 15 people, I don't think that would be something that, or maybe that's something that this community would support. But we were able to do it at that point in time, and I commend them for it. But at some point in time, with what we have to maintain and the resources that we have for the city, we're on a shoestring budget as it is. And I think it's something that we need to look at. And I want to make sure that there's protections for everybody who's in that property. So that would be part of that.
I think we all agree that we're here to make decisions for the community, for what's best for the community. And, it's hard to separate the people from the community because that's who our community is. But when you stated, Mr. Raker, do we take care of 15, 16 people, or do we take care of the greater population with the funds that we put into this? I mean, if I look at the 15, 16 people, I'm picking you. If I'm thinking about the greater good of the whole population, I'm like, well, maybe that's not fair because the whole population should benefit equally. So I guess I'm really interested in what kind of I would love to be able to say, we can take the burden of this facility off of our hands and pass it off to someone else who could do it better, more equitably, take good care of people. I would want everyone there, like everyone else has echoed, to be taken care of until they don't want to be taken care of in that environment again. And thinking that we're going to take them out of there and put them someplace else for the same dollars, I don't think that's realistic in the market out there. I just don't think that exists. And what's the answer, right? Like, how do we market this to say that it's a good financial decision for us while looking people in the eyes? I guess is my question. How do we do that? Because I think we would have to be able to do that. And I personally would not look forward to another round of developer versus Clausen in any stretch with, because that's what it would turn into. And as much as you want to believe everything everyone tells you, you can believe them until we sign papers and they walk away, and then we can't hold them to anything, even though we might have something that says we may be able to hold them to them. I mean, the Shalom event, how much passion has gone into that? Can you imagine what this will bring too? It's going to bring the same kind of thing. And it's just, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I'm sure there's someone out there that would do us right by this, but how do we find them? How do we get to them?
I think we can only find them if we have the authority to sell.
That is true.
Until that happens, nothing happens. And as Mr. Raker, you made your point, the current situation is unsustainable. This issue's been kicked down the can kicked down the road. Finally, we need to deal with it, and what we need to do in the most compassionate way possible. And I think we can do that.
Well, I think it's, for full transparency, you have a healthy fund balance with the Renshaw Fund. You have its value. It's concentrated on 15 people. Nick has some statistics about seniors in Clawson. Can you share them?
Yeah, so based on the 2022 census report, there are 5,806 households in Clawson. Of those, 1,680 had seniors 65 and plus, which is 29%, and 813 of those households were seniors living alone, which equates to 14%. And I think part of the conversation that we're having is we have a quality senior program, but I would say the Hunter Community Center itself could use some significant upgrades. And so in a better way to serve the entire senior community in Clawson could be to take the revenue from the Renshaw apartment building and invest it into the senior programs for Clawson for all of our seniors that we have in the community.
Okay, what's the current fund balance for Renshaw?
At the end of this fiscal year, it's anticipated to be 425,000.
Okay, 425,000. We sell the property for $1 million, so we have 1.4 million. With that, I believe we could probably fund improvements to Hunter and still fund a transition process for the current residents.
Knowing all along that you have the absolute authority to deny
Right.
up until point of sale.
Yeah.
If that occurs.
When you're talking a transition, are you talking about subsidizing people's rent moving forward,
Possible.
or do we have the authority to do that? Can we do that with municipal funds? Good question.
We kind of do already with the rent that we charge.
You do, as a matter of fact, and just by what we charge, but that is by not accepting as opposed to
handing it.
Yeah.
Might have to be some kind of creative sale agreement.
On the sale agreement, you can do, obviously, you could, your purchase agreement can be anything that you wish. Again, mindful of that it will affect pricing perhaps, depending what you do, but you can protect the seniors, you can do whatever you wish. You may choose not to sell.
Could we sweeten the deal by selling it for a more attractive price to a developer? And then have them agree to a, God forbid, New York style rent freeze?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, I hear a lot of discussion about just these 15 people. And, you know, I'm not a religious person, but there's a quote about those who are the least among you are the greatest in God's eyes. And I don't want to quote scripture, but something to consider. I mean, these are 15 important people and 15 people that cycle through. I'm a senior, I'm over 60. I do live in a house because I fortunately can afford to live in a house, but we have those in our community who can't. And this housing was set up to take care of the least amongst us in the community, and for us to turn our backs on them because we want for those who can afford it. The other people who are in houses are seniors who can afford it, but we have groups of people who can't. I just think that you know, we're supposed to be the community. We're supposed to look out for everybody, and these is a great opportunity for us with all of the other, you know, money-making things that we do and financial considerations that we have to slice out one little piece of humanity and preserve that.
Well, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not said that, yeah. we're taking
The sale of the property won't.
We want to
necessarily-
protect.
We don't know. We don't know what the sale of a property is going to be. We relinquish our ability to have control over it.
Not if we have conditions.
Conditions are only as good as their, desire to uphold them. Yeah, we can sue and make sure we do it.
Conditions, I mean,
There's all kinds of legal conditions that aren't adhered to. So it's, and that's why I'm talking about, let's talk to some people who want to buy it before and see what they're going to be willing to agree to or what they're going to adhere to. Where there's a lot of assumptions being made, but the clearest assumption that's going to preserve the homes for these people and every other 15 people who come and go throughout that is to leave it as it is, not sell it to a disinterested entity that's not concerned about the community.
Well, in all fairness, I think each one of us over here has stated emphatically that we are concerned about the people who are currently there. And we're business, this is a business, right? You can't determine if you're going to have that in perpetuity. It might not be best for the city to have that in perpetuity, not long past us. So are we going to be mad because the 15 people that could go in later on can't get in? That's not something we should be concerned about today. Taking care of the ones that are there right now, 100% we should be concerned about. And I think we've all echoed that same sentiment. So let's be fair about that. And Mr. Raker, I'm sorry, you did ask to speak.
No, I think I will hold my comments.
Okay.
I just want to reiterate, we're trying to protect you, but at the same time, we do have long-term vision as far as what we want to do for the community, right? Why we got into this in the first place, I get it, right? Well, at that point in time, but things changed over a period of time that if they had 5 years to wait, they would have realized that perhaps this isn't the course of action to spend that type of money in establishing this enterprise for 15 people. And it's not just you 15 people, right? I'm not singling anybody out. It's just the fact that these are homes. I get that. But I don't know how long we're supposed to be, in the business of doing this. No other community in our area does anything like this. And again, maybe it was, establishing a big heart at that point in time. And I want to carry that through. I want to make sure you're protected, but we've got other things that we need to do for this community. And that's not, unfortunately, one that we can do forever.
And we can be proud of ourselves for taking this on as a community. I mean, we should care about the people who are here. We should care about all the people who are here. I think that's the hardest part of a lot of what we do. We didn't want to ask for a bond for roads. We know that those dollars affected people's livelihood. We understand those things. But the bottom line is we have to look down the future a little bit too to see that we're making the right decisions. If you were to ask me today if $1 million in our coffers would be worth disrupting 15 lives, I would tell you absolutely no, unless there was some sort of a guarantee that we could ensure stability and a good quality of life for everybody moving forward that's affected in this today. Those are my thoughts.
And I believe Mr. Shai did say that we could sell this with conditions of a rent freeze, things like that. I mean, for one, I will refuse to vote for any sale that doesn't have a condition to protect the current renters for life. But I can't even make that decision until the voters empower me to do so. So I support letting the voters make that call. And then once that was resolved, we can sit here and hammer out the best deal we can. And once we have the authority, the developers will be more likely to talk to us.
Or we'll be sitting here hammering out the improvements that need to be made.
Yeah. It's one or the other. If anyone would like to make an exception to our rules to allow public comment, we do have someone who's been raising his hand. Okay, do we have a second?
Support.
Okay, great. Mr. McCauley.
Ron McCauley, 1008 West Selfridge. This bond at 9A that we talked about tonight, or 25 mils or whatever it is, isn't there a stipulation in there that some of that money can be used for site improvement?
Or is this?
Yeah,
the whole
we're
discussion?
throwing everything out.
All
Yeah,
right, so,
why not?
no, in fact, it was very specific. The bond language is for water, roads and sewer. Very specific.
That's it?
In fact, we had discussion about potentially investing having the ability to use that bond dollars for structures, be it City Hall, Hunter, or Renshaw, or parking lots, and council's determination was to focus on streets, water, and sewers.
Oh, I thought I heard somebody say that it included some site improvements. I must have
The
been
site
wishful thinking.
where those improvements are occurring.
We got to find a way to do it so that we can keep Renshaw with the people that are living there now and can live there for the next 50 years if we got other seniors that need to come in. And I don't care what other cities are doing. They're making a lot more money on than we are because they got bigger downtowns and more expensive taxes like Rochester and Birmingham. But Clausen pays a lot of money in taxes, and we need to help our seniors. We need to help our seniors. And I don't think it should be put on a ballot. We got to work around that, letting the public do that. We need to figure it out ourselves and take care of Renshaw.
Thank you.
Can I speak, please, without getting up? Can we not have a meeting where I can hear what you people are saying and you will accept our input? It doesn't have to be a council meeting, just a group meeting set up somewhere. So we could give you our input, and I think it should be. I think we should be able to speak when you're talking, and I can't hear half of what you say anymore, but I know what you're trying to do.
Madam, you may do that now.
I may-
That's why we're open forum. Come on up or stay there and talk.
I need to stay here.
Okay, we're listening, ma'am.
Bush is saying you don't speak into the microphones so we can hear what you're saying.
No, we don't hear, I don't hear.
I don't
I
hear
don't
it.
hear a lot of the stuff that goes on, but there's other buildings that can be sold in Clausen. You've done a good job of selling other ones. There's the elementary school, of course, that school board. The middle school was 100 years old, I see. And they redid that. I don't see where Renshaw needs any redos. We have the ramps, we have the bars. We have what a senior needs. And what is the ADA? What are they going to come and tell us, get out of here because you're not doing it right, or we're going to tear it down? I mean, there's a lot of stuff on Facebook right now about this. But there's more of us that would like to speak to, but I don't think it'll pass on a sale. So if you guys want to stay like you are, or some of you, and want to put it up for a sale without looking into it more, then go right ahead.
Madam, we're not gonna do that. I, for one, will not approve any sale that does not respect the rights of the existing 50-10 for life.
I understand that, but why would you even agree, the four of you, that this can go up on a ballot? The city will never approve it anyhow.
Well, we'll find out if we put it on the ballot, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. There's a lot of history behind this building okay.
No.
My
You go
mouth-
ahead.
my
No,
mouth
you
is
keep it
dry.
We're open forum, ma'am.
I've been there 17 years and I cannot imagine you putting that on the ballot. You've got another school you could sell you. If you need money, find the other place. Okay.
Yeah, what about the old pizza place? But anyway, I was just thinking, I like the idea of having like a workshop. I mean, solving this problem together. I don't know how any of this works. I'm ignorant. But I'd like to help. I'd like to provide some insight or just to get in there and help out. So, but also, have you guys considered possibly taking donations or asking the community to come in and build ramps, help out? I would volunteer my time. I know a bunch of other guys my age who would, cable, and I understand ADA and code. So it's like, have we reached out to a group and set up flyers or do things like that? I mean, if we knew all these people who are living there, I mean, I'd go and help my grandparents. I'm sure all my friends would go and help their grandparents. So like, I'm happy to workshop things and to put my time in where I can be used. So I think, yeah, so that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a concern. Like you're saying that if someone bought the building, you could put stipulations on it. But my concern is, like, people can say anything they want. And then after it's a done deal, all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, you know, this and this, we're doing this and this and this, and you have to jump through this and this and this hoop. What's to stop a buyer from just saying, yeah, we agree to all that stuff, and doing something completely different, or slapping on a bunch of stipulations that we kind of don't have any way of adhering to as tenants?
I assume the city attorney has the ability to draft a contract with conditions that can be legally enforced. So if they don't have the contract, they can be sued. And if they try to raise the rent, they can't.
Yeah.
It's illegal. If they try to evict you, they'll block the eviction proceedings. There's many legal mechanisms. The ones that are down on paper, they're enforceable. It's the force of law.
And that could be done?
Yes. Mr. Nisha, I shouldn't speak for you, but I'm assuming you would
did an excellent
handle
job, sir.
something
Thank
like
you.
that.
You did an excellent job. I agree. Yes, sir.
Well, it's not looking as bad as it did when I came here.
We're not out to scare anybody. We do not want anyone to feel threatened
was-
about where they live or how
I'm a
they
nervous
live.
Nelly anyway, so
No,
it was like
It's
kind of a
understandable.
sleepless night last night.
The value of a society is how well it takes care of its elderly.
Right.
And senior citizens. We're not going to allow ourselves to not take care of those people.
And I
All those
will
people.
tell you, I was in education for 28 years with special needs kids. Not in this district, but I feel strongly about education, and I will vote accordingly.
Sure.
You know, when it comes to our schools, even though I'm well past the age, my kids are all grown. But I say again, I'm thankful. I got very worried, you know, like I'm near my kids. They're near to me. I love Clausen. I'm just like, crap, what am I gonna do? I don't know.
No, man, I can only speak for myself at this moment, but I won't vote for any sale that doesn't have conditions that protect the current renters. All 15 of you. I am, but I don't think I'm alone.
Well, what if the voters say, nah, we don't care about that. We want lofts.
The voters just have an up and down. They either authorize us or they don't.
Oh, okay.
And then they're done. And then
Okay.
it's the council. And once we do that, we can have presentations, we can have workshops, we can have all sorts of strategies worked out. But none of it will happen until we put on a ballot.
And obviously, if it does come to some type of potential sale, that you would be informed.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's goes without saying, right? The fact that
There'll be no surprises as far
Yeah,
as
yeah.
the transparency of a potential transaction. And the
That's
biggest
what I was
hurdle-
worried about, surprises.
Well, the biggest hurdle is putting it before the electors, and they may say not no, but heck no.
Because we are a community there, like we're a community within a small loving community that Clausen is. We're friends there. We take care of each other, help each other out. It's, and true, it's 15 people, but we'll see.
We will take care of our own, all 15.
Thank you.
Since we're all open, what's the size of the building and scope that can be built there? So should whatever developer buys it decide to tear it down and put in a PUD, displace our residents here for 3 years or however long it takes to develop? Just wondering, like, what's the scope of the building that would possibly go there? Is that something anybody's considered worth looking into? You have no idea?
Consider it.
No, interesting. You have offers, but they don't know what they're gonna offer you $1 million on? Or considerate people considering, okay,
what's the
it's,
zone now?
it's worth knowing. It's worth knowing.
Zone RM1, right?
CMD.
Is CMD? Okay, so, all right, so originally when that was put in place, it was R1. They had to change it to RM1 in order to build the location that they're at now. And now it's, yeah, oh, that's right, it did move to CMD. That was a number of years ago. Okay. All right.
Yes, thank you. Is the attorney absolutely confident you can draft a contract that's enforceable on lifestyle matters?
Lifestyle
Well,
matters, sir?
we're talking about quality of life as well as bricks and all of that kind of thing. How would you approach that in a contract that's enforceable? Would you freeze our rent? Is that one strategy? Is that actually doable, or are we just kind of talking here?
This is doable. It happens every day. You can place conditions on the sale of a property any which way you want. And the buyer can either choose to buy as you presented or.
When we read in the.
Hear my answer, sir, right?
The local newspaper highlights cases where there hasn't been enough money. The builder didn't have enough funds to complete, and oh gosh, we feel sorry.
I think you're talking about something.
Yes.
That may occur, which will not occur if if this, I presume you want to
I'm,
hear my
I'm
answer.
depending on you to do the work.
I understand. I presume you want to hear my answer.
Yes, sir.
Okay. This body, if the community were to place the authority to sell the property upon this body, they can choose to have any conditions just about that they deem appropriate. If one of those conditions that they choose to deem appropriate is to protect the leases currently existing in perpetuity for the life of the lessees,
yes, sir.
then of course they can do. And any conversation about what the builder may want to do is non-existent because they can't do so long as there is a valid lease. And your leases will be there for the
Okay.
life of, which means any conversation about, oh, let's tear it down, keep you out for 3 years is nonsensical and has no basis in anything, unfortunately. This body
Okay.
can and will protect your tenancy for the life if they so choose. It's as simple as that. And it happens all the time. And people don't simply buy when they offer, I presume, and we don't know, I don't know which offers they are, but people buy just to hold the building. They don't buy simply tear down and build a new. So we can work with those. I mean, I presume the body can work with those kind of purchasers. And if they cannot find the kind of purchaser who would accept the kind of conditions that they place, they will choose not to sell.
Yeah, I like the concept of the conditions. I'm just a little uncertain that they can be, that there would be enforceable. I mean,
Gives you the uncertainty, if I may.
yeah, I think in terms of the intent.
What gives
So
you the
you're
uncertainty?
expressing the intent that you would enforce these conditions, not sort of, or maybe, but actually do it all the way.
You're bound by contracts every day. This will be no
Well,
different.
yes, sir. Good. Thank you. Well, thank you very much.
And just for clarity, it's been thrown out a couple times, 3 years out of that place with no place to live. There are no deals. No one's being removed from a property for 3 years without a place to live. We're not even there. This is a conversation to say, is this a valid thing that we should put before all of Clausen residents to determine whether or not this is an entity that we should maintain as the city of Clausen? That's all this is right now. And I guess I'd be interested to know if we were going to put this on the ballot, what would the language look like? And what kind of educational information would we put out there? Because I think that would be important to the residents, especially the ones in the room right now.
So if I
Put you on
can go to, I believe the ballot language that a previous city manager put in there, it basically says the sale and the proceeds go to infrastructure. And we would simply just substitute infrastructure with the council's desire. My recommendation would be senior services. It would be, I think, that straight up and down. It shall the, and maybe the city attorney can help me out with some language. Should the city of Clausen sell Renshaw and use the proceeds to provide better senior services or more senior services or equitable senior services, whatever it may be for all seniors in Clawson. I don't know, something to that effect.
The language, Madam Mayor, if I may, I can read the language that was proposed by the previous city attorney now some time ago, at the time. And what council considered then was, shall the city council of the city of Clawson, Oakland County, Michigan, be authorized by the voters to sell or otherwise dispose of the real property located at 121 Renshaw Avenue, Clawson, Michigan, 48017, more particularly described as, and he gives text parcel IDs, Madam Mayor. I'll skip those. And shall the net proceeds from such sale or disposition be used for, but not limited to, senior services in the city of Clawson? I would recommend, if the council so wishes, remove the but not limited to, so that there's no, there's no question that it will go to senior services.
Excuse me, did I hear the word senior apartments in that?
Apartments, they're talking senior services. So the idea is if we were to sell the property and have dollars in our hands, that the dollars we receive would be used for senior services inside Clawson, whether we utilize it for building improvements or
Service provision.
or for programming that Scott and Lisa provide to seniors in our community. That would be the goal. Did I get that correct?
Correct, ma'am.
What
Thank
I'm
you.
asking is, will the voters know that this is a senior apartment building in Clawson? Will that affect their vote if it doesn't say senior?
We will have it on there as the Renshaw Senior Apartments located at 121
Thank you.
Renshaw.
If I may ask, I mean, we haven't gone too far down the path of the developers. Are we anticipating a renovation of the building or a knockdown rebuild?
I have no idea, sir. I mean, actually, there was some people that said, the people that were empathetic, I mean, there was probably 2 or 3 informal ones over the course of my tenure here. And they had made provisions, they shared provisions just in passing about being empathetic to the people that are there currently.
Okay.
Yes, sir, Mr. McCauley.
Are you talking to me?
No, I mean,
Okay, got it.
I forgot my train of thought. I'll think of it.
We'll stick around. Does the ADA, can they require that apartment to be brought up to ADA specifications? And is that not grandfathered in because it was built before the ADA come along?
Who wants to take this? I'm familiar with ADA. I can give you my version.
You want me to?
I'm happy to.
All right, so in the ADA audit from AEW on page 2 at the top, because the Renshaw Apartments building was constructed around 1981, prior to the ADA's adoption in 1990, compliance should not be required. However, due to the complexity of all the related laws and statute, it is conceivable that a judgment could be made to the contrary.
And I'll finish that thought. As you may recall, Madam Mayor and council members, some time ago, I updated you on recent changes. I'll give you just this one example to talk about, to explain the comment by AEW. I updated you some time ago to let you know that, for example, slip and fall laws in the state of Michigan have changed based on a recent ruling of the Michigan Supreme Court. And an issue that was dead for many, many years, at least 20 by my calculation, has now become a fact of life in Michigan again. And these lawsuits are again becoming prevalent. Indeed, right after I gave you the update, literally the week after, we were served with one such lawsuit. And we've been served, not with a lawsuit, but with a notice of a lawsuit that is impending. I give you that example to let you know that at Renshaw Apartments, which are not ADA compliant, though grandfathered in, you could have an issue that is substantive and substantial. If there is a slip and fall, for example, for one of the neighbors, one of the members, one of the residents of the community, to say that because the property is not ADA compliant, to say simply that it is grandfathered in, that is not a defense, that is not an affirmative defense, that is not something that works in a court of law. All we're going to get is a judgment with enough zeros to where nobody in this community is going to appreciate. that's one of the reasons why we as administration and why the city manager has taken this on to bring it to you for your recent conclusions. Because it is our duty to present it to you for your consideration and for all the community.
And that's not just on the outside of the building, it's inside.
Every which issue, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Sir.
ADA compliance can mean a lot of different things. It can mean a handrail, it can mean the width of a door for wheelchair accessibility. So I'd like to see a breakdown of exactly what you're saying about ADA compliance, all right? You're gonna try to like sell this place because you're out of code. Well, it could be a couple of little things where you drill into a wall with some handrails, or widen some doorways. I mean, or build a ramp. Is that worth 15 lives being displaced? I mean, have you seen what happens when you take people out of their homes at a certain age?
Sir, we're not gonna let that
I
happen.
know, and I appreciate all your comments. I really do. And I do feel better, but I still, Boston got us into this. We got ourselves into this. We should see it through. And that's what makes it special.
I think if I can echo Mr. Nishai, in essence, we're in a situation to where if somebody injures themselves, they can sue us. Pick up the phone, call the family lawyers,
Yeah.
and they can sue us for big bucks. And then in the end, force us to be ADA compliant perhaps. So we're in a vulnerable position, I think is what we're saying on a legal basis.
Slip and fall can happen anywhere, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
but not being ADA compliant might be an element in that lawsuit.
Yeah. It just seems like a kind of a easy way to, let's get ourselves out of this. It's not ADA compliant. You know, it seems like a little way to weasel out of the situation we put ourselves in. But I do feel better, but it's still, you know, I think we should move on forward.
Mr. McCauley?
Yeah. If I was buying that property and you told me that I had to make arrangements to keep 14 or 15 residents in there until they passed away or moved, I would never want to buy that. How could I go in there and wait if I want to renovate or bring it up to ADA compliance? I can't do it when I got residents living in there.
We'd sweeten
Not
the
be our
deal,
sale.
sweeten the deal financially.
Excuse
Or
me?
never sell it.
Or never sell, or never sell it.
Excuse me?
Or never sell it.
Yeah.
If if those are the conditions, right, which it sounds like that's where we want to go, right? That somebody says, no, I'm not gonna do that, then we don't sell to them,
What if none of them want to do it?
then we don't sell.
Then don't sell it now.
Well, I think.
You know, don't vote on it.
I
Find a way to bring it up to ADA compliance
I
now.
truly believe that the residents of this community should have a say.
Okay, you let the residents decide. Well, the residents decided on the school, Sham, and what'd they do? They tore it down and now we don't have anything,
I
but
think we should put the residents in some cars for the 4th of July parade, and put them down the street. And we can celebrate them and raise donations and make the updates.
I think it would be important for residents to know with the $425,000 balance, what the balance of renovations would be, because if they decide not to sell, those would be something we would take on as a tax burden with obvious updates needed. So 425 less the ADA upgrades, what number are we at? So I think that in your efforts to inform voters, that might be something that would be helpful.
I think as much of the ADA portion is important in this conversation is not the crux of this conversation. I think it's long-term liability of our community and what our liabilities are moving forward is my perception of that.
Yeah.
And I think,
the last 40 years,
no, I'm,
ADA compliant,
yes,
and now you're worried about getting sued. Come on.
I don't think that's the big story. Are you coming up or are you
Yeah, it's
going?
fine.
Okay, I'm gonna let this be our last one and then
Yeah,
we're gonna get
I
back
think
under control.
If you'll come to visit the building, you'll see that we're ADA, we're barrier free from the parking lot all the way into the building. There's no ramp, nothing. It's a smooth, easy transition from the parking lot right inside the building. We don't need an elevator. We've got 2 units of the 15 that are equipped and sized, I believe correctly, for the ADA requirements. I don't understand why suddenly we're worried about being cited for a violation that may not exist. When I lived there, and it's a smooth walk all the way, and I'm not a good walker. I can get up and in and to my unit easily. What we don't have is an elevator. That's true. And some people then, their only alternative is the stairs. But we've got 2 units on the ground floor whose kitchen is sized with a 5-foot circle, whose toilet rooms are sized. We've got grab bars. I don't know what this mythical ADA violation is going to be that we haven't had already, that we're so afraid of. I mean, someone could sue you for tripping over the joints in the parking or in the sidewalk. But that doesn't get attended to promptly. I mean, no offense, but I mean, this hypothetical lawsuit is just that. It's hypothetical to me. I'm sorry. I think I understand the need to be prepared, and we have insurance on our homes, and you guys have liability, I'm sure, here, but I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate all of the comments. We appreciate where all of you come from. I hope you understand that city council is just taking notes, and we're trying to figure something out, and we're trying to do the best with the resources that have been handed to us to think about the viability of all of our community into the future. And that, I believe, is the reason for this conversation. And it is a conversation at this point. I personally would love, I know we're on a time crunch if we were to want this on the ballot coming up for the next election. Like, we would have to make a move on this within the next couple of weeks. Is that correct?
Today.
Today, okay. Well, I don't know where anybody stands on this. I personally feel like maybe a meeting with more residents that would encompass residents who may be for and people who don't, not just the people who live there and are emotional towards living there, but maybe for a broader spectrum of the community might be good. But if you guys just want to hold a vote and go for this tonight, we can do that as well.
I just think that we tried it in 2018. I don't recall it being brought up before. I don't think we should kick the can down the road. Let's give the voters an opportunity. We've heard what the residents said of the department. I think they've understood where our position is in protecting them, and that's the condition of the sale. So I think we should move forward.
There's an election in November of this year too. And so if we don't make it for the May election, we can always put it on the November ballot. So, I mean, to err on the side of getting more information and having more discussion might be wise. I mean, the deadline's today for the May ballot, but there's an election in November. It can go on there too, if we take the time to have more discussions.
Technically, the deadline is February 13th. This is the last meeting before that.
Yeah, but
Are we talking for the May election?
Correct.
right,
Okay.
but there's one in November too.
Thoughts?
The issue
There's a
has to be
motion.
addressed sooner or later. I am just talking at this point.
There's not been a motion.
Yeah, there's a motion.
No motion.
That's
No motion is necessary.
Well, I'll make a motion that we put the placing the sale of Renshaw Senior Apartments on the May special election ballot with the conditions that we've discussed this evening regarding the language that's already been.
May I quote the language for your motion?
Please.
That's it. With the language of the ballot to be, shall the city council of the city of Clawson, Oakland County, Michigan, be granted the authority and approval from the city of Clawson voters to sell or dispose of real property as described as follows: 121 Renshaw Avenue, Clawson, Michigan, 48017, more particularly described as tax parcel IDs 2503-103-004, 2503-103-005, 2503-103-006, 2503-103-013, 2503-103-014, and 2503-107-035, and that the proceeds from such sale or disposition of real property described above be approved for use on the senior services of the city of Clawson.
I'd like that included in my motion.
Support.
Yeah, can we amend that motion to include the reference of the Renshaw Senior Apartments to the,
Yes, included.
Support.
First.
so we voting on the amendment first?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that necessarily an amendment or are you just including?
I wouldn't include it.
Oh, on part of it, then
Yeah.
you're voting on the motion.
Yeah.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
No,
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
No,
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
so that did not pass, but I would like to see it move forward for discussion. I would like to see if we could set something up in the future that would be a public hearing, not hearing, whatever, a public meeting regarding the topic, because I would like to bring, I would like people to know about it. I would like them to show up, and I would like to get a broader input from broader spectrum of people. I respect all of you. I know you guys are very passionate about this, but I'd like to hear from people who maybe aren't quite so passionate or just looking at the big picture, not just where, you know, like the immediate needs, even though they're both important, but I would like to be able to weigh those out myself. And I guess I didn't have enough courage to do that today on my own. So would you guys be, in favor of arranging something like that the next couple of weeks?
And I assume whatever we put together will be on the November ballot.
Could be August.
Or it could be August.
I mean, I don't know if we want to have another.
No, I know, that's thrown out there as far as our opportunities. So, but yeah.
Any support for that?
Yeah,
No support
that's
for
fine.
that?
Yeah.
Thank you. And then I'll
The
just,
issue's not going away, right?
no, it will not go away. I mean, we sat here in 2018 or whatever and experienced the same thing, and it wasn't fun then. It's not fun tonight, but it is an issue that needs to be addressed, and I do think we should look at it moving forward. So, Mr. Raker, would you mind arranging some time on the schedule, such a meeting with the public, with announcements that we're gonna discuss this thing, and we'll kind of do this all over again, but maybe with a few more people?
The discussion was today, ma'am. I mean, now we can go into we're going into the budget season. Are we going to fund this and do the enhancements? I almost think maybe is there any wisdom in discussing the legal liability of this? You know, to advertise our vulnerabilities. I'm not sure that's wise.
I think we've already done that tonight. I think in all fairness, we've already done that.
There is.
Can it not be put on the November ballot?
This is not the time.
Could that be amended for November and give us?
I'm not sure what there is discussed. This was the discussion.
Well, the point is that we have a public that is an impassioned public. And I'm sure there's a public, I would personally would like to know that there's a public out there that's kind of neutral and that would like to make a decision the way we're trying to make a decision, which is not based just on the human beings involved in it, but based on our long term. And I want to see that. I want to see other
Keep that
people.
If it was on the ballot, I mean, because we would do a information campaign one way or the other. I mean,
True.
just full information of, you know, this is what is being considered.
I think what she's saying is we need more public discussions. We need more input. So if we hash it all out 3-4 more times, at least we'll can move forward with good conscience that we've had all the discussions. Everyone who had an opinion had an opportunity to raise those opinions. So let's talk about it a couple more times. So everyone has a chance to, you know, voice their opinions across the community.
And how will we be notified of something that's?
Madam Mayor, if I may, obviously, you know, to attempt to wrap up, because of course we're beyond the motion now, and there's a little bit of an issue. I presume, as you know, infinitely well, all of you, you have the right and the ability to call for a special meeting as well as two of the council members, and perhaps that's, if at the appropriate time, that's probably the way to go forward. And we'll leave it at that, with your permission, of course.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for weighing in on this topic. I know it was emotional and not fun, but it was important. And I just would like to see a little more conversation, even though I feel like we had more than enough conversation. So I'm just saying the opposite, but I feel like that. So do we have any unfinished business this evening? No, great. Then we'll have public comments for items not on the agenda. If you're here and you'd like to speak to something we've not yet spoken on today, we welcome you to the podium. Please state your name and your address. Thank you.
My name's Stan. I'm a resident of Madison Heights. I really just wanted to bring something to attention to the city council as well as the city of Clawson of a situation that arose to my poor minor child. So obviously it's been pretty emotional around here today. So I hate to add more rain. But real quick, April 17, 2024, my son has been attending a private school in Clawson since the age of 3 to the age of 10. So April 17th, my son reported to his teacher that a young man had criminally sexual conduct upon him. It took the school 3.5 hours in order to contact the police. After my son came home, he was able to explain to his parents what happened. And at that time, the school nor the police department had ever contacted mom and dad. So naturally, as a parent, I call Clawson PD, wanting to know why the parents weren't called, that they came to a scene where a minor was sexually assaulted. April 23rd, I expressed to the OIC at Clawson my concerns of the school covering up, which there's been many situations that I brought to the school's attention that never came to the police department. On May 16th, I was denied a FOIA request asking for body cam footage because it was an open investigation. So I let that be, and I know I had 180 days to appeal that FOIA request. On May 28th, I spoke with chief stating my frustrations of the school covering up, taking over 3 hours after the assault of my son to contact Clawson PD, and continued my discussion of my frustration, how Clawson PD did not contact the parents when they came to the scene. They did not talk to no children. They only talked to the principal at the school. I kept explaining to the chief of police that I have audio evidence of the school's supervisors admitting to me that the principal lied to the police department at the time that they came to the scene on April 17th. June 26th, I was told the investigation is closed, and chief and the OIC tell me that I can send my second FOIA request, which again was the body cam footage was very important to me and my family. I tell the chief in that same conversation that the school accomplished their goals by covering up the sexual abuse of my son for their own indulgences. Later in that afternoon, I sent my second request for FOIA, and then that was denied. Because now Clawson PD is now telling me that they requested criminal charges against the principal. These are all things that I had addressed to the police department in the very, very beginning. On August 8th, OIC tells me the charges against the principal were denied. And I want to note through this, not one time through anything were any victim's rights offered to my son or to my family. Luckily, I was in a position where I could offer my son the right therapy and the right help. None of that was ever granted to my family. Mid-September 24, I sent a third FOIA request, requested all police investigation on the assault of my son, as well as the charges I was explained by the chief that were being asked against the principal of the school. October 8th, I received the investigation report. I'm told by the chief in my FOIA, what I received in FOIA, that she would be happily view the body cam footage with me at her office. 2 days later, I come to her office. She says, well, I don't recall writing that. I said, well, chief, the records council says that you're more than happy to do this with me. She goes, well, I think I got to talk to the city attorney. 2 days later, she contacts me back and says the body cam footage has been deleted. Now, mind you, I had FOIA in May, so I have 180 days to argue that. This was an act of criminal sexual conduct, which there is statute that says it needs to be held for 3 years. And again, I requested over and over and over. And the only reason what brings me in here today to explain to this is what I learned yesterday by talking to Kelly Collins of the Oakland County Juvenile Division. I was denied the FOIA request in June after the prosecutor's decision against the assailant I was denied that because charges were against the school principal were pending. Kelly Collins at Oakland County Prosecutor's Office told me yesterday that those charges were never granted, were never asked by Clawson PD. Those charges weren't asked by Clawson to be PD till October 18th. So this is over 6 months after the action. I was denied my rights and my family's victims' rights to be able to view what happened at the time when the first responders came, because again, they didn't talk to my children. So whatever the police department and the school decided, that wasn't a necessity to talk to them, to call the parents so that they can interview the children that were involved in this. Well, why was I given the FOIA in September? I was told I couldn't get it in June because charges were pending against the principal, but those charges never were brought upon or never requested until October. Now, at that time, I had already received it. I'm just really frustrated. So I mean, seriously, but you hear about the vulnerability of the vulnerable, the senior citizens, kids. To have chief of police and the OIC openly over numerous conversations. I was a pester in this police department from April until September, and to be continually lied to, I think needs to be brought to the city board's attention as well as this community. It's taken a lot out of me today to come up here with it. But when I spoke to chief, she said, I need to refer this to the city attorney. And she said, I'm no longer going to speak to you, talk to that person. And I'm sorry, I did reach out on it numerous times and unfortunately left the message here. I guess maybe you don't work out of this office and didn't hear back from nobody. But when Kelly Collins, the head juvenile prosecutor who's dealing with probably the most vicious juvenile offender in our country's history right now, tells me that no charges were ever brought upon the principal for his lying to the school, to the officer, which is obvious to anyone who would read the police report. He made 3 different stories. This minimized my son. My son was a straight A student up to that 3rd quarter of his 4th grade year. He's currently been dealing with ideation as well as he's failing school. I'm just a concerned parent. I'm going to protect my son. My family's going to protect my son. We're going to get him the right help. But how many of those out there that don't have those resources and the knowledge to be able to speak up and keep pushing it back? It took me 6 months to get a response back from the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office, which I should have received that information at the time my son was interviewed. My son does a forensic interview with Care House. He talks about ideation. I'm told by the police department, you can't hear about that. You can't see that video. I'm like, well, all these things that you've done wrong to me already that we've agreed upon, how do I know? How do I protect my son's rights when he's getting forensically interviewed? Which that forensic interview, as I understand, was never put in consideration to the prosecution department to make the decision at all. My son was never offered any medical condition when he came forward to those that he can come forward to. He begged for mom and dad to call. He speaks and expresses over and over, I'm hurt. I'm not okay. One thing I get in the police report from the officer for the first responder was that the principal said, no, my son's okay. I'm not going to use his name. He's okay. He kept him in school with the abuser. No phone call. The police didn't contact us. And then when I contacted the police, the first responders were already off for the day. And I was naturally upset as any parent I think in here would be. I said, I need to talk to this person now. Whoever came to the school, why do they feel not to contact the parent to make sure? Because the school had already told the police officers, we haven't talked to the parents yet. This is 6 hours after my son came forward and he's stuck in school. The police didn't contact the parents. So I expressed this to the chief and she says, well, some things will be changed. Anytime something like that, we're going to make sure that EMS is there. Why does my son have to be that victim? And then continuously for 5 months lied to. It's very frustrating. I had a different attitude how to come about this earlier, probably a little bit more emotional, but seeing the tension in this council meeting today is kind of taking its real toll on me too. So I just want to bring that to attention. Whoever needs to do what they need to do, but I think the community needs to know that when there's some intentional deprivation of victims' rights, especially now this is my 10-year-old son.
We'll have someone get your information. If you
My
could just-
information's been out. I left messages.
Could you
The
just?
chief is very familiar with whom I am.
we have-
April 17th, 2024 is when when the call was made around 12:40.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you for coming. Anyone else?
My name is Phyllis Rand and I live at 697 Phillips. And I'm here because I got a letter from the city of Clawson that I have a notification that your water service line is made of lead. All of my neighbors didn't get this. Only a few of them did. I'm not sure what's going on. It, gives you information on it and all, and it's not the lines in my house. It's something that the city has. I don't know why my house would have a lead line and my brother, who lives a half a mile away, never received the letter. It said, if you want more information, call DPW. So I called them and they told me that they put the letter out because they had to send it out because the state of Michigan told them to. And it also says if you want timelines to call TBW. So I asked them the timeline and their projected plan, and she told me, we don't have anything right now, but we plan on getting it to it sometime in the next 20 years. I just thought that was kind of ridiculous. Why are you sending me a letter to scare me not to use water in my house and tell me that you're not going to do anything about it for 20 years? I don't understand what's going on. And why, if it affects my house, doesn't it affect my neighbors' houses?
We'll have someone contact you if you can hang out for just a couple of minutes. We'll
Yeah,
have
I've
someone get
tried
information.
contacting numerous people and I never get calls back. So,
Take care of that this evening.
okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who has public comment this evening? Great, thank you for all of your public comment. Let's go to our city clerk's report. Vince, do you have anything for us?
I have nothing, Mayor.
Thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate you. How about our city attorney report, Mr. Newshine?
Madam Mayor, I'll give you a very brief with respect to 14 in Maine, the former Pizza Hut. I just want to let you know that that matter is proceeding. I've had a conversation with the attorney representing the other side, and we are currently scheduled for trial on Friday, jury selection on Friday. However, I believe that there may be some daylight in resolving some of the outstanding issues with the lot itself. Barring any questions from you all, I have nothing further.
Anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you for your report. Mr. Baker, do you have a report for us?
Yes, ma'am. First, I'd like to thank the residents of Clawson for their patience as DPW dealt with multiple water issues during the last 10 days of January. And with that should go the recognition for the hard work DPW executed during those severe weather conditions. Trevor, Ryan, and all the DPW deserve to be recognized for their tenacity, professionalism, and commitment under exceptionally challenging circumstances. Well done, DPW. Sewer cleaning and inspection continues as the weather permits. The contractor started in the northwest section of the city. Since the last council meeting, weather has only facilitated the cleaning and televising of 5,800 linear feet. As a reminder, we have a sectional map at the city that is updated when necessary and located on the City of Clawson's website under DPW and engineering, and then under that title, cleaning and televising sewers. As I mentioned at the last meeting, I will have a proposed budget timeline for council's consideration before the second meeting in February, which is the 18th, and pending any questions, that's my report.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, great, thanks very much. Councilmember comments, Councilmember Shepherd?
No comments.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson?
No comments.
Ms. Moffett?
I have nothing.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank everyone for coming this evening and sharing their concerns. And thank all of our great city employees for doing great things for us every day, and wish you guys all a great evening.
I move we adjourn.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson. Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
Yeah, I just looked up, like, I mean, letters and